What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick and Tayler Kyles here for CLNS Media outside Gillette Stadium as we get you ready for Patriots 2024 training camp down here in Foxboro coming up next week. We've got a lot of questions heading into this one. New era, new quarterback, new coach. We're going to start with Drake Maye. If he can win the job in training camp, if they're going to have to wait a little while to get him on the field. A reminder, we are powered by Game Time. Get your tickets there. $20 off your first purchase. Use code CLNS. Terms do apply. So, Tayler, quarterback Drake Maye, drafted number 3 overall in the 2024 NFL Draft. He's coming in here, has some competition. Jacoby Brissett in front of him, new head coach, new offense coordinator, new quarterbacks coach. Can he win the job right off the bat? Do they have to ease him into it? What do you make of the quarterback situation as a whole?
So I know a lot of the conversation about whether or not Drake Maye should play has been centered around, all right, but what about the supporting cast? Can the offensive line support him? Does he have enough pass catchers? And I understand to a degree you don't want to throw your young quarterback out there the way we kind of saw with Mac Jones, where he didn't have sufficient supporting cast, and you saw, his discipline and his mental state just seemed to deteriorate from 2022, then obviously falling off a cliff in 2023. But at the same time, I think like when Drake Maye was selected, it was mentioned by Elliott Wolf and Gerard Mayo, he was someone who was able to elevate everyone around him. He's that kind of quarterback, whereas with Mac Jones, I think everybody understood he was more of that point guard who was dependent on the people around him. So just to address that point, like the offensive line, you do want stability there. If it's a turnstile in training camp and in the preseason, and you're seeing even, if Jacoby Brissett's the first guy out there and he's struggling behind the offensive line, give a little bit of thought to that. But I do think the offensive line has enough quality talent, enough veterans and guys who have starting experience, not career backups, like we've seen the Patriots have to field a lot in the past. I think they're going to be good enough as long as obviously the chemistry's there. And then with the receivers, I think they have a good mix of veterans and then young guys. The veterans like KJ Osborne, Kendrick Bourne, whenever we end up seeing him out there, Hunter Henry, Antonio Gibson. It's not just the wide receivers. I think the tight ends and running backs are going to factor in as well. But I think he has enough around him to where if he does end up playing, he'll be able to at least be, if they go with that play action heavy, not a whole lot of pure dropbacks, I think they're good enough. Now, that said, with Drake Maye, I think the key is going to be what he's able to do in terms of understanding the play calls with this West Coast offense. It's a lot of really lengthy nomenclature, like that clip of, who is it, John Gruden's, Chris Sims, that's it. Yeah. Chris Sims, like, trying to get everything out, and then he has to keep going over and over because Gruden's just like, dude, you got to get this down. It's not easy. Now, it sounds like Drake Maye was doing a pretty good job of that, leading the huddle. He got some compliments from Jacoby Brissett and his coaches, so that part of it is really good, but you also want to see the consistency on the field in terms of the underneath accuracy. Like as we saw in that last day of minicamp, he had some bright spots, finished strong, but there were also a lot of moments where his accuracy was not good underneath, throwing passes behind receivers, forcing tough adjustments, leading to some breakups. So if Drake Maye can go in there and be consistent and be able to handle the offense, because it's not just about him, it's about everybody. And if they can, at least be stable, I think that's where Drake Maye has a shot at making the team, or at least starting for the offense early on. But at the same time, Jacoby Brissett does bring that consistency. You know exactly what you're getting out of him, and he's someone who I think is good enough to really compete for the starting job, not just hold the chair for Drake Maye. So as long as Drake can show something in training camp, add that stability on top of all the amazing things he can do, I think that's his best bet, but I don't think it's going to be easy.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be easy. I think the one thing you have to look at here is, and I've mentioned it a lot here, but this is not necessarily a 2024 team. It's a 2025 and beyond team. This is a rebuild. Doesn't necessarily have to be a fast rebuild. So if Drake Maye's not ready week 1, but he's still out there showing that, rocket arm and the ability to move and things like that, they shouldn't feel forced to put him in there. I think they felt a little forced to put Mac Jones in there in 2021. Cam Newton wasn't playing great. The COVID thing happened, and they sort of just kind of rushed Mac Jones in there, frankly. And that was one of the main contributors, I think, that ultimately, set him up to fail here. With Drake Maye, you have the time. You have a little bit more leeway now. Again, a new coach, a new system. It's not a win now team anymore. So if he's not ready, don't rush him in there. You have Jacoby Brissett, who has the familiarity with Alex Van Pelt's offense. So let's just be patient. Realistically, personally, I see him as, a halfway through the season to even towards the end of the season starter. You don't necessarily have to throw him in there right away, but when you see this, again, the strong arm, the athleticism, the ability to make plays, teammates around him are going to be like, we want this guy to play. We want this young stud to play instead of Jacoby. Not necessarily that Jacoby's going to be bad, but there's going to be a lot of pressure everywhere from this team to get this guy on the field.
Yeah, and I don't think they have to rush him back at all, or onto the field at all, and that is the nice part. They've said plenty of times this organization, Jacoby Brissett is a guy who's going to compete for that starting job, and the way that Alex Van Pelt talks about him, I think he is considered the starter behind closed doors, so absolutely no rush, but like you said, if Drake Maye's out there torching a very good Patriots defense out on the practice field in training camp, if he goes out and balls out in the preseason, and it gets to the point where it's like, all right, let's see what the young guy's got. I really don't think you need to coddle him necessarily. You want to keep him away from bad habits. I think that's the biggest thing, like with the footwork. We've talked about it ad nauseum. You don't want Drake Maye going out there feeling the heat, and then his footwork's all over the place, and he starts to maybe lose confidence, but I don't even think that's really going to be an issue, because this is a really confident kid who already, like I mentioned, had to elevate a not-so-great North Carolina offense last season, but did show like Heisman-level flashes in 2022 when he had a bit of a better system around him. So I think if Drake Maye's out there, again, I don't think they need to hold his hand through this necessarily, but I do think you want to make sure he's going into a somewhat stable environment with veterans who are at least going to be able to, be league average for the most part, and then let Drake Maye take over and all that talent that he's got kind of speak for itself and justify why he's on the field.
So what's your prediction? Who starts week 1? Jacoby Brissett or Drake Maye?
Jacoby Brissett week 1. Yeah, I really do think for Drake it's going to be an uphill battle because of the stability that Jacoby gives, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to be clear-cut. Like, I do think we're going to start talking as training camp goes on, like, I don't know, Drake is, making a bit of a push. He's having some really good days out here. So I do think it's going to be Jacoby, but if it's Drake, I wouldn't be stunned either.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. We'll see it here starting next Wednesday. Patriots kick off training camp on July 24th on the fields outside of Gillette Stadium here down in Foxboro. We'll have you covered on Patriots Press Pass here every single day of the week. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe to Patriots Press Pass on YouTube, and check out all of our written work at clnsmedia.com.
Make sure to subscribe to Patriots Press Pass for all your Patriots news and updates on YouTube, and for all our written work, make sure you check out clnsmedia.com.